What's the story, everyone? Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. How is the form? How's everyone getting on? So, what is the most competitive club football championship that's out there at the moment? That's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. And look, a bit of a different topic, obviously, to what we usually discuss on this channel. There probably isn't a lot to discuss really in the GAA right now, if we're being perfectly honest, especially since the Mickey Hart appointment. And obviously there was a couple of big results in club championships at the weekend, a couple of big results obviously here in Dublin and even around the country as well. Plenty of stories beginning to take shape within the various different club football championships. But what I was thinking is, what is the most competitive club football championship? What is the best club football championship? What is the best club football championship in terms of value for money if you're going for games? And ultimately, what is the most entertaining club football championship that's out there? And when I think about it initially, there is a few club championships that for me jump to mind. And look, I think as a Dublin fan, obviously having watched Dublin club football for as long as I've been a fan of the GAA, I can tell you it's very competitive. Kilmacud Crokes certainly have a bit of a stranglehold on the club championship right now, but I think there's a lot of very good teams in Dublin to still make it somewhat competitive. And I think you even saw that at the weekend where Kilmacud Crokes are playing in a quarter final of the Dublin club championship, and it's probably that game was against Ballymun was probably a bigger test than what Kilmacud Crokes will face for the majority of Leinster if they get through Dublin, in my opinion. And I think there's a lot of very good teams in Dublin, and I honestly do think if there was a backdoor in the club football championships, I don't think there should be, because I think, look, players have enough games to be playing, and especially with the split season and obviously the amount of games that are now at inter-county level as well, I don't think you can have a backdoor like you used to have, I think, 7 or 8 years ago in club football championships. I don't think you can bring that back in my opinion. I think it would be a little bit unfair. But if there was one, hypothetically speaking, I think you would see teams like Ballymun, Ballyboden, St Enda's, if they don't get through Dublin, or the beaten Dublin finalists like last year in the Fina, you would have saw those sides, get to a possible quarter final or possibly even beyond that in the All Ireland series, because like you look at it and you see the quality of players that these teams have, and in Dublin in particular, there's a lot of very good players across a lot of different clubs. I mean, Ballymun of the likes of James McCarthy, Dean Rock, Paddy Small, John Small. Nafina obviously had a poor enough year this year. They've had a lot of injuries, but the likes of Owen Merchant, Johnny Cooper, Conor McHugh's a very good player as well. Ballyboden with the likes of Michael Dara McCauley, Colin Baskell, Ryan Baskell, Ross McGarry. There's a lot of very good players, and that's obviously without mentioning Kilmacud Crokes, who obviously have the star-studded players of Mannion, Shane Walsh, Craig Diaz in midfield, for example. So I think the Dublin Club Football Championship is definitely up there. Look, Dublin is obviously the reigning All-Ireland champions. The amount of pick of players that we have across the county, the size of the county, the population, everything else, you would expect it to be very competitive, in fairness. I think if it was a one-sided championship, it would be, it wouldn't look good on the county. But outside of that, look, I think the Kerry Championship, to be fair, the Kerry County Championship is very competitive. Like, you're looking at it usually, with the Kerry Club Championship, you only have 8 teams in there. It's cutthroat. We've saw big teams get relegated in the past, the likes of Austin Stacks, for example. And even at intermediate level, you're seeing Austin Stacks lose in a semi-final, and it shows sort of that there's some teams in the Kerry Intermediate Championship that in most other counties would compete at senior level. And that goes to show the quality of players that they have. Obviously, the County Championship's a little bit different. You've got divisional sides in there. But like in Kerry in particular, we're seeing a lot of sides come to the fore in the last couple of seasons. Kerrins, O'Rahilly's, Dingle are obviously looking very good right now. And when you've got some divisional sides in there, the likes of East Kerry, for example, like there is a lot of very, very good players within that championship. And usually, the semi-finals and finals of the county championship are very, very interesting indeed. And I do think Kerry Club Football, it gets a lot of slack, it gets a lot of criticism a lot of the time from neutrals, and even myself, I've been critical of it at times as well. But I think for me, you can't deny that Kerry Club Football is definitely on the rise. It definitely is. Like when you look at it, they had an intermediate winner last season in the All-Ireland Championship. They had a junior winner in the All-Ireland Championship last year. Rathmore winning intermediate, obviously Fossa winning junior. At senior level, you had Kerrins O'Rahilly's who got to the semi-finals. Kerrins O'Rahilly's was a strange one because They won the club championship, and then they, lost every game in the county championship. And you were sort of looking at it thinking, how on earth has that happened? They were coming into Munster with no form, and they didn't really have to, they didn't have to beat the Cork champions or anything like that. But they were very competitive in the game versus Kilmuckle Crokes. So I was at that match, and with a couple of minutes to go, Cairns O'Rahilly's had Crokes on the ropes and nearly, pulled off a late winner there. So in general, I think Kerry club football is definitely on the rise. I think you have to put it in the conversation, in my opinion. Look, the Tyrone Championship, I think, is probably the most cutthroat championship that there is out there. Straight knockout games. I think it's harsh in some ways on the players to have a straight knockout championship, like the fact that you can play one game and lose and then you're gone. For example, there was a game during the weekend between Tralee and another side that went to penalties, and you're just thinking, you play one game, lose on penalties, and your championship is over. It's a little bit harsh, but at the same time, I do believe Tyrone have an extended league, and it's always been that way. And I think when you grow up with something and you're used to it, you adapt to it. And I think for Tyrone, to be fair, you look at the competitiveness and the games that have come out of that championship in the last couple of years, the late drama, the penalty shootouts, 10 different winners in the last 10 seasons tells you that it is probably the most competitive championship. You've had incredible stories like Dungannon winning the championship, Errigal Kieran winning it last year, and you've had a whole host of different teams who've sort of come out of nowhere to the naked eye and go on and win that championship. So I think Tyrone is seriously competitive. I do think Errigal Kieran, I look at it this season and I think with the age profile of their team, the Canavans, obviously having Peter Hart in there as well, a few other players, Tommy Canavan is probably the unsung hero of the Canavans, to be fair. But you would look at it and think they could go on and win back-to-back. I think if there was a team best placed to win back-to-back titles in Tyrone, it certainly would be them. Yeah, I think the Tyrone Senior Football Championship has to go down as one of the most competitive as well. Like, there are some other championships that tend to produce a lot of great teams, but I don't know if they're as competitive. I look at Down and Kilcue, to be fair, have had a lot of very close games down the years where they've gone to penalties, extra time. And, for anyone who watched my video I made earlier in the season where I predicted every club senior football championship, I personally think Burren will go on and win that this season. I think with the underage players that they have, I think they will be stronger. But again, Kilcue have had a stranglehold in that championship. You look at Monaghan, Scottstown generally have been very dominant down there. In Derry, for me, you've only really got two teams. Look, when it gets to the final, or when we get to see Slot Neal play Watty Graham's Glen, you've got two very, very good teams coming up against each other, and it's a bit of an El Clasico in some ways when you look at the two sets of players that are on show in the Derry Football Championship. But again, outside of those two, there doesn't seem to be anyone else who can compete with those two teams. So if from a naked eye, you would look at Tyrone, Dublin, Kerry as three of the most competitive club football championships. I think Mayo, to be fair, has had a couple of big results in the last couple of seasons. I know Knockmore won back-to-back titles, but you're looking at Westport, who were intermediate just 5-6 years ago, and now they're probably one of the big hitters. And Mayo obviously won the senior championship last year. Belmullet are on the rise. You've got Brafey with so many good players. And obviously Mayo, look, it's a predominantly footballing county. You can see the standard of football that's within Mayo club football, and the competitiveness is in there. Look, and you look at Roscommon as well. Plenty of shocks down the years, like Strokestown, for example. They were in a relegation playoff, I believe. Or they were in a relegation playoff, but won it last season. So you have a lot of mad stories that can develop in the club championship. Look at Dunloy, obviously, in Antrim, getting to a senior final there, predominantly hurling club. I think that's a fantastic story, and certainly one we'll touch on in later podcasts as well. But the most competitive club football championship, it is an interesting discussion, all right. Obviously, whoever, if you're from a certain county, you're always going to choose your own county. I think that goes without saying, because you watch those games in and out. But I think when you look at Tyrone in general, and 10 different winners in the last 10 seasons, you have some incredible amount of stories that come out of there. Dublin, obviously, the talent that we have within the county, it only makes sense for Dublin to be sort of have one of the most competitive club football championships, but also club hurling championships as well. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think is the most competitive club football championship out there? What do you think is the most entertaining, the best, and the best value for money? Obviously, a lot of these championships are on clubber.ie. Some of them are streamed behind their own paywall, and then obviously Dublin have their games on YouTube for free. So, like, to be fair, you can, when you're watching the games, like, what is the best value for money? To be fair, I've definitely paid for a lot of Tyrone games down the years, Tyrone Championship games, because they are very, very entertaining matches. And I think when it does get into the quarterfinals and semi-finals, I will be watching those games in more detail. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below, what did you think of this video? Let me know, what do you think is the most competitive club football championship? Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. More content coming your way soon. If you could share this out to your friends and family, that'd be absolutely brilliant, as it helps the channel grow. So yeah, my name's Aaron. I'll speak to y'all soon.